Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're trying to cut through the noise around a word you hear all the time, toxic. Everyone seems to use it, but what does it actually, look like when a relationship, and I mean any relationship, really goes into that toxic territory?
Yeah.
So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to give you a shortcut, a real shortcut, to being well informed on this, pulling out the clearest, most impactful insights from our source material.
And it's such a crucial place to start because toxicity,
Yeah.
it isn't always those huge dramatic fights or, really obvious abuse.
Yeah.
Often it's much more subtle, insidious sometimes. It's that quiet wearing away of your self-esteem, your peace of mind, your overall well-being.
Yeah.
And importantly, these ideas, they don't just apply to like romantic partners. They apply everywhere, friendships, family, even work relationships.
Exactly. Yeah, universally. So we're diving into 7 key signs, really human, very relatable signs that might suggest you're, dealing with a toxic dynamic. And as we talk through them, you might find yourself nodding along, maybe recognizing some patterns, perhaps even in your own life or relationships you've seen. Hashtag I as it lied. Unpacking the 7 warning signs of toxic relationships. Okay, let's jump right in. Sign number 1. You feel drained after interactions, not energized. Think about it, right? How you feel after you spend time with someone who really lifts you up. There's that warmth, maybe laughter. You feel good, connected.
Yeah, energize even if you're tired.
Exactly. Now, flip that. Do you ever leave an interaction and just feel exhausted? Like you've been walking on eggshells the whole time, or you find yourself replaying everything you said, everything you did hours later.
That feeling, that emotional drain, it's not just like a small thing. It's a massive red flag.
Right.
Our source material uses this great analogy. Think of relationships like a battery. Healthy ones recharge you. Toxic ones drain you till you've got nothing left. So if you're consistently feeling depleted after seeing someone, well, that's a really powerful sign something's off balance.
Wow, that battery analogy really hits home, doesn't it? It makes it so clear. It's not just a feeling, it's like your capacity is literally drained.
Precisely.
And that brings us kind of neatly to the next one, which can also be subtle, but man, it's corrosive. Sign 2. Constant criticism disguised as honesty.
Oof, yeah. This one's tricky.
Totally. Because honesty is important, right? We need that. But there's such a fine line between useful feedback and just constant criticism that tears you down.
Exactly.
We're talking about when someone's always picking apart your personality, maybe your choices, even how you look, but they wrap it up as, oh, I'm just being real, or I'm just being honest.
Right. And what often gets missed there is what it actually is. It's described in the source as low-key emotional manipulation.
Low-key, yeah.
Because when that criticism is relentless, like a pattern, and there's no balance, no support or encouragement coming with it,
Right.
it just erodes your self-worth. You start to internalize it. You start believing maybe you're not good enough. And that's just a really dangerous place for your mental health to be.
Oh, absolutely. You can easily see how that just chips away day after day. Which leads us straight into sign 3. You're always the one apologizing.
The constant apologizer.
Yeah. Look, disagreements happen. Conflict is normal, even healthy sometimes. But if you find you're the one always saying sorry, even when deep down you kind of know you didn't do anything wrong, that's a huge indicator. Do you ever catch yourself doing that? Just apologizing to keep the peace.
Yeah, or to avoid a big blow up.
Or the silent treatment. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you're doing that, apologizing just to keep the peace or dodge a meltdown or silent treatment, let's be clear, that isn't really accountability.
Right.
That's self-protection in a toxic dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a survival mechanism, really.
That's a powerful distinction. Self-protection.
Yeah, it is. Because a healthy relationship, it should feel like a partnership,
Yeah.
where you solve problems together, not like a courtroom where you're always on trial.
Wow. Yeah. Always on trial. That's heavy. Okay, this next one, it feels particularly insidious because it messes with the very foundation of connection. Sign 4, manipulation replaces communication.
Yeah, this is where things get really twisted.
We're talking about those classic tactics, right? Guilt trips.
Yeah.
Ultimatums.
Definitely.
Emotional blackmail. It stops being a conversation and turns into this emotional tug of war. Like maybe someone makes you feel terrible for wanting to see your friends, or they're always doing these little tests of your loyalty, seeing how much you'll give up for them. It really makes you question, what's the foundation of a healthy connection supposed to be?
Yeah.
And the source says it clearly. It's grounded in respect.
Respect. Simple as that.
In healthy communication, you don't need to play games. You don't need to decipher hidden messages or guess what someone really means.
Right.
You just talk, honestly and safely. When that direct, respectful talk is missing, well, that's a fundamental problem. It really is. Okay, let's move to sign 5. They undermine your confidence. This one, it can be so sneaky because it's often not one big thing, but lots of little comments that just chip away.
Yeah, the drip, drip, drip effect.
Exactly. The source gives some really sharp examples. Things like, are you really wearing that? Or, you're not smart enough for that job.
Ouch.
Or even that truly awful one. No one else would put up with you.
Those comments, even if they seem small on their own, over time, they just decimate your confidence. You start doubting your gut feelings, your dreams, even your basic worth as a person. And if you step back, you see the dynamic the source points out. A toxic person often feels stronger by making you feel smaller.
Wow. Yeah.
But real love, real friendship, it's the opposite, isn't it? It consistently lifts you up, not breaks you down. That contrast, I think, is one of the most vital things to grasp here.
Absolutely. Lifting up versus breaking down. That's so fundamental. Which brings us to sign 6. You're afraid to be yourself around them.
This is a painful one.
It really is. It's recognizing that feeling of self-censorship, where you're constantly changing what you say, or maybe how you dress, or hiding things you enjoy, all because you're trying to avoid their judgment or avoid starting a conflict.
And when you're doing that, constantly editing yourself, the source calls it self-erasure.
Self-erasure, wow.
Yeah, you end up feeling like you're constantly performing instead of just being. And it's genuinely heartbreaking to feel unsafe just being you, your authentic self. Because the healthiest relationships, the really good ones, they're the places where you feel most yourself, not less. And you feel seen, accepted, warts and all, you know?
Yeah, totally. Where you can finally exhale. Okay, and the last one we're covering today. This is described as a really hard-hitting sign. Sign 7. You feel isolated even when you're with them.
This one goes deep.
And it's not always overt, right? Sometimes, yeah, a toxic person might actively try to isolate you. Maybe they discourage you from seeing friends, or they're always criticizing your family.
Right, trying to cut off your support system.
Exactly. Making it harder to connect with anyone else.
But it's also important to talk about the other side of that coin, the isolation, that isn't necessarily intentional on their part.
How so?
Well, sometimes you just slowly stop reaching out to people yourself. You become so mentally and emotionally exhausted by the main toxic relationship
Oh,
that
right.
you just don't have the energy left for other connections. You withdraw.
I see. So it isolates you either way.
Either way. And it leads to this really profound point from the source. You can be physically close to someone and still feel completely alone. And if you feel that deep loneliness, even when you're with the person, that is a powerful signal something's wrong. It shows the connection isn't truly connecting or nourishing you at all.
Okay. So we've gone through these 7 signs, and if you were listening and thinking, oh, wow, that sounds familiar, maybe recognizing one or, several of these in your own life, please hear this. You are definitely not alone in feeling this way. And just as importantly, no, you are not too sensitive or overthinking it.
Right. That's often part of the manipulation itself, isn't it? Making you doubt your own feelings.
Exactly. They want you to think that.
So the first step, the most crucial one, according to our sources, is simply awareness. Just recognizing these patterns for what they are, that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah, just naming it.
Naming it. And then the second vital step is boundaries. Learning to set clear, firm lines about what is and isn't acceptable treatment for you. That's fundamental.
Okay, so awareness, then boundaries. And from that point, the sources suggest a range of possible actions, right? Depending on the situation.
Yes, it's a spectrum.
It could mean having a hard conversation, which is often the first attempt, or maybe seeking therapy, either for yourself or, if possible, together. Sometimes it means consciously distancing yourself, creating space. And sometimes, maybe often, it might mean needing to walk away entirely.
And all of those options point towards what you ultimately deserve. The sources emphasize this. You deserve relationships that nourish you, not ones that quietly tear you apart.
Nourish, not tear apart. Yeah.
You deserve peace. You absolutely deserve respect.
Right.
And above all, you deserve love that doesn't come with a price tag on your identity or mental health.
That's so important to remember. Take care of your heart, everyone. It really is the most important thing you have. And being truly honest with yourself about what you're actually experiencing, that's the first really brave step towards doing that.
Healing really does start with honesty. First with yourself, like you said, and then eventually maybe with others. So here's something to maybe mull over. What does honesty with yourself truly mean for your relationships right now, moving forward? Think about that.